Good afternoon. I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, to the Committee of Whole meeting, Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. Just a reminder that this is a Committee of the Whole meeting and no decisions will be made here today. There will only be recommendations, so we'll go to our next regular council meeting on Tuesday, January 28th, 2025 for consideration. A couple of reminders for today's meeting. Members of the media may sit in the upper balcony at the reserved media table. All other guests, please take a seat in the first floor gallery. If that is full, there is overflow seating on the second floor in the Victoria Room, where you will be able to see and hear the meeting. We live streamed the meeting on your YouTube channel, and the recording is available after the meeting. The meeting is also broadcast on Broadcast Live on your TV, Cogeco subscribers, Channel 10, HD Channel 700, and rebroadcasted on Wednesday at 9 a.m. and on Saturday at noon. Because meetings are accessible to the public in all these ways, video or audio recording by members of the public is not permitted in council chambers. This is to ensure that all attendees and those who come to make a deputation feel at ease. Thank you for your cooperation. I have a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Perry, Councillor Ashmore. All those in favor? And that passes. We have Councillor Warren and Councillor Yeo are zooming in today. So we actually have 6 members of council and myself in the room or in the meeting today. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest on anything on the agenda for today? Seeing none, should any arise during the course of the meeting, advise the chair and we'll deal with them accordingly. We'll move on to item 4, which is deputations. And our first deputation is item 4.1, short-term rental licensing requirements for fire pit setbacks. And we have Roshan Hagala. Thank you, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Do you hear me? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for giving me opportunity to express whatever I'm thinking need to be changed. There was a the main thing is there's a one bylaw. I have 2 bylaws. This is a one new one. This is an old one. This old bylaw said on the 7th number it's showing fire pit should be in the minimum of 5 meters from the building or any other structure, and the 5 meters from any fence, trees, bushes, and piles of combustion materials. So this is the original bylaw, but that has been changed. I don't know, it's on 2016 has been changed, this one. It's setback, put it as 15 meters from the building or structure. I think it's not fair. The reason why nobody has, like if you put a 15 meters, it's a way far. Nobody has that much of room on the lands. And this is really impact for enjoyment to the people. Like if we run for this short-term rental and the people coming from the city. So why people come city from to the this kind of cottages to they have enjoyment. So we cannot set up this the fire pit. The reason why, because of the bylaw, we didn't like when I purchased the property, I had this one exactly 5 meters, and my neighbors using bylaws to pinch us. And if you see 10 like 100 houses, 90 people, 90 don't have enough this 15 meters setback at all. So only so when the fire department contact me, I ask why you guys do this one. Then they whatever they explain. I asked why you don't go other places. They said they go only when somebody complain. If it a law, it should be for everybody. If it is not law, so it cannot be somebody complain, go, oh no. Law is law. If you don't want to proceed the law for everybody, so set up back to the 5 meters, which is, I have a screening for the fire pit, which is the flame or the particles doesn't go out. And I kept a fire extinguisher beside that fire pit, because if anything happen, I'm the person who responsible. If it will affect to my house and my property and my insurance, that's the first thing happen. So I taking care of more precautions than anybody, and I leave the water lines, and fire prevention is number one. So that's how I restructured, but they against with that one. I'm kindly requesting if you can put set back on that previous bylaw for 5 meters, that would be much appreciated. And it will be help to run this. We have lots of restriction. Like we have to follow the rules because it's for the safety. I understand. I agree for that one. So we keep it on the safety, because many years we was run. We didn't have any issue. Why all of a sudden somebody complain only coming? That's not fair. I hope everybody will be understand, like give a favor, like if you don't have any, if you have a law for, then enforce to everybody, not for only complaint time. If not, just put it 5 meters so everybody is on the law. That's it. If you don't have 5 meters, so then you can enforce. I think it's fair. This is my personal opinion. I'm talking not only behalf of me, all the who running this business. Like nobody has that one. So if you go everybody, so everybody will be like how they run how we going to improve the business? How we going to improve the like a city, like this is like a small city, and then we try to make the people come from the town to here and bring money, and they're helping to the local people, they're buying the local products, so business is growing. And last year I didn't run at all, because I cannot run because there are a lot of restrictions and I couldn't get the license, and I was hoping to get the license this time. I don't know how the city will be giving that one, but let's see. If it doesn't, I'm going to out of this business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just
And I
stay
can-
there for a couple of minutes in
Yeah.
case there are questions. I get a motion to receive the deputation, please. Councillor Joyce, Councillor Perry. Are there any questions for the deputy? Deputy Mayor McDonald.
Yeah, through you, thank you. Thank you for your deputation today. You made a point with the bylaw was just for you, but bylaws are for everybody.
Yes.
Okay, not just for you.
Yes.
So that 15 meters is for everybody, just not you. Bylaws are complaint driven, and that's probably why somebody showed you your property. So, but the bylaws are for everyone.
Yeah, but the bylaw, it doesn't apply for everybody. Only somebody complain.
No. Bylaws apply for everyone.
Yeah, but nobody has that 15 meters.
Yeah. So
That's why I said 100 houses you took it.
Yeah.
90 houses don't have this 15 meter setback. They have 5 meter setback.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There's an old bylaw which was used, so it was everything fine. And just I don't know why you guys decide to change that one for 15 meters. So I don't have not me, like most of the houses, like in order to have that 15 meters, you have to have many acres. Nobody has that one.
And one other question is that you did say that you have it's a short-term rentals and you haven't got a license yet. Is that what you
No,
said?
last year we didn't approve.
Okay. All right.
And we didn't run the business. And before years, we pay HST as a 7,410 to the government. This 2024, we didn't pay anything because we didn't run the business. And the previous year, we paid 8,233 HST. But we didn't pay now, like last year, nothing. So the government lost, and we didn't do anything. So we don't have any revenue. So how are we going to pay?
Good. Thank you.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Excuse me. Thanks.
Excuse me, I think there's another question
sure.
for you.
Sorry.
Just one more question. And thanks
Yeah.
very much for coming. I think this is what we're here for, to hear from members of the public, concerns, questions, requests. So thank you for your presentation, which was focused and brief. I just have the bylaw here that you're referring to, and under section 3.08, sub 5, it talks about the 15 meters only being from a building or a structure, correct?
Yeah.
There's still 5 meter setback requirement from fences or tree brush piles or combustible materials and property lines, right?
Yeah.
So there still is a 5 meter availability or setback from some things. It isn't all 15 meters, correct?
Yeah, but only like if like my property is in the close to the river. So if I make it a 15 meters, I have to build the fire pit in the river. It's not possible.
Okay, so given the structure, it's the 15 meters you need for your
And
particular
or
property.
if I bring to the
Right.
mow down, I have to cut all the trees. I don't want to cut any trees.
Sure.
Because I like the nature. I want to keep the nature. Because the people coming from the city to look the nature, enjoy the nature.
Sure.
So nature is my first priority.
I just want to make sure that you knew it wasn't a 15 meter blanket prohibition
No,
or
but
setback.
that's why I'm saying like
There are exceptions remaining that are still 5 meters. So.
previously it was 5 meters.
And it still is for some things.
No, everything was 5 meters. This
That's
is
right.
what I want to show
And now
you.
it's 15 meters for buildings, like
No,
you
no,
said, or
it's
structures.
now. But
And
original
5
bylaw-
meters for other things, fences, tree brush
no.
piles.
I can give you this one. This one is showing all are 5 meters.
This is the 2016 bylaw that you referred to, correct?
This one I don't know which year because it doesn't say anything.
All right.
Whatever 2016, it was changed from 5 to 16. I mean 15. I'm asking to change it back to 5 meters for the building, which was original one.
I understand. Okay.
This is the only thing I requesting.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today.
Yeah. Thanks for your time.
So your deputation will be referred to the council meeting of the 28th of January.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
We have a motion to receive and to forward that recommendation to the next regular council meeting. We already did that, so all in favor? And that's passed. Our next deputation is Mr. Paul Vesio, and it's a request for fence encroachment adjacent to Pleasant Point Road in the former township of Fenland. Mr. Vesio,
Thank you,
you
Mayor.
have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I wonder if you could, I sent some pictures in and the overhead shot there, yeah. If you could call it up. It just would help explain what I'm gonna talk about really quick. So if you look at the overhead shot, I'll just wait. Has everyone got that up? Yep. And you see like there's a red dot and you see a yellow dot, the overhead shot. The like Google Earth shot? You don't have it up. Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry. No, I'm picking on you. You'll see where the red dot is, that's where the fence in question is. And you'll see where the yellow dot is, that's where the boat launch is, all right? So the distance between those two dots is probably 70 feet. It's not that far. And with a public boat launch, you can imagine the traffic when people are coming down. I mean, you've got a public boat launch with nowhere to turn around and nowhere to park. I mean, I'll say that's what it is. It's not really feasible. And the residents in the area have to put up with incredible boat traffic from the end of April to the beginning of October, 6 months out of the year, 7 months out of the year. So there's nowhere to turn around. So the nearest place to turn around is when they come around the red dot, the fence there, and they pull in, and then they swing around and back down their boats to the dock. Well, I moved up here, it was just about over a year and a half ago, and the previous owner, this little old lady, Dorothy, she put a fence in because people, as they were backing around, would rip up the lawn constantly. And there's even people that have knocked over the fence and promised to come back and fix it, but never did. So she put that fence in, and it's a solid fence. It's got 6x6 posts cemented into the ground. So you can imagine the boat traffic. With Snug Harbor, you have to pay. It's private. I've heard Long Beach is closed, and Kennedy Bay dumps you into the mud, and there's no dock to tie off to. So it is literally nonstop boats from May to October, and I've even had them rip up part of the lawn, like before the fence when they're turning around. You can imagine a pickup truck as it's turning its wheels there, it's just tearing the grass. And I take a lot of pride in taking care of the lawn. You know, I water the lawn, I fertilize the lawn, I cut the lawn, and even there's even solar lights up at night. If you go to the next picture that shows it at night, it's lit up. And people in the community have really complimented on the quality and the look of the fence in the area, and they're thankful that it's lit up at night for, in the summer when they're walking their dog and it's getting a little dark out, that cars can see them when they're coming around the corner. So it serves, it serves a purpose. And you think, oh, Paul, well, people are polite enough not to drive on the grass. They're in a rush to get that boat in the water, so they're really not too concerned about ripping up some grass to get their boat down there. So you can imagine the traffic from 6 a.m. till 3 p.m, from May to October. It's a zoo down there. And if you see on the picture, I have removed the rocks and I've seeded with grass, so it looks really nice. So now we'll go on to there's no hindrance at all. There's no visual hindrance. It's well back of the stop sign. It's low enough. The snowplow goes right down Pleasant Point, and Rose Street, there's a city pickup truck with a plow because it's a very narrow road. So that's been there for years. That's been there. That fence has been there for I don't know how many years. I don't even want to guess the number. So there's really been no complaints about it. There's only been compliments about it. There's no visual hindrance. There's no hindrance with snowplow vehicles because the big plow goes straight down almost to the dock, almost to the boat launch, and then a city pickup truck plows Rose. So you can come down now and have a look. It's really not a problem. So you're probably thinking, okay, Paul, well, why are you here today? Who complained? Like, what was the complaint? It's been there for years. No one said a word, and you're saying people like it and it makes the neighborhood look nice. Well, it's the people. If you look at the overhead picture, it's the people directly across from me that own an Airbnb. And there's 4 owners of the Airbnb. 2 of them, their father used to be a former councilman here. And those two of the 4 owners also live in the neighborhood. Well, they've been operating that Airbnb without a permit all year, because you've gone through the trouble of making these laws and these permits for these short-term rentals. So they're assuming I'm the neighbor across, I've complained, so they're going to attack me. So one day I'm sitting there on my porch and 2 bylaw officers walk up and they've got a list of complaints. They've got your dogs are in the lake without a leash on and you're in violation of this. It was all BS because nothing stuck. Nothing stuck. And this is the last thing, is this fence. So you can see the retaliatory nature of the complaint. And I'll step aside here, Mayor, and you should pay attention to this because this sounds a little fishy. I just got off the phone with a bylaw officer who's in charge of the short-term rental implementing of the bylaws. And she told me, and I've talked to her all summer because there was people coming in and out of there every 2 or 3 days from May right till Labor Day weekend. And I said, Adina, have you issued fines here? Like what's going, I'm just curious, did they ever pay any of those fines you issued? And she said, I don't know, that's above me. And I said, well, that's funny. Your manager, Jen, and actually you've told me they were allowed to operate that Airbnb right up till Labor Day weekend. I mean, why would anyone operate an Airbnb when there's fines of an incremental nature and even into demerit points on your license plate? Why would they operate that right to Labor Day weekend? I said, have you issued fines for short-term rentals without permits at all this summer? She goes, oh yeah, lots of them. I said, that's funny because this one with the two sons and the former council member as their father it just seems like they haven't paid a dime. I don't know if you're following me here. This is pretty corrupt. You got it, Doug? This is pretty corrupt.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Very
I'll
corrupt.
also ask you to wrap up, please.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's about it. And I welcome the director to come down and look at this fence. And just so you feel good. There's no visual distraction. There's no anything going on here. It keeps boats from ripping up the lawn. It provides as a safety barrier for lights at night for cars. So I just ask. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to receive the deputation? Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Yell. Deputy Mayor McDonald, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, through you. I take it the fence is not near property, it's on the city property?
That's right.
That's why, okay. So,
I'll step aside. If you go down Rose Street, it's been there for over 120 years, I'm assuming. Every property on Rose Street is in violation of the road variance somehow. I mean, Rose Street is pretty much just like an extra wide walking path.
Right.
So there's homes in violation of the variance. In fact, that the Airbnb has a bunkie 4 feet from the road, and miraculously, the city approved it.
Right.
If a car goes off the road 4 feet at the speeds they drive and hits someone, that's where someone's head is when they're sleeping. Just want to let you know more of the funny nature of this.
Yeah, we're here to talk about the fence, let's just stick to
Yeah,
the fence.
yeah,
So, again, that fence is not 20 years old, it's a year and a half, you told me?
I moved in a year and a half ago, and that fence was already there.
It looks like it's fairly new, so.
Yeah, she just passed, and we moved in. It'll be 2 years in June.
Okay.
So
thank
it's been there. I mean, and the fence before was like the farm fence she had up, but people kept knocking that down. Actually, a platoon chief that lives four doors up the road knocked it down, said he'd come back and fix it, and didn't. So, anyways, that's.
Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Paul, thanks for coming to council today and explaining your situation there. I know I've been to your place a few times and certainly been to Pleasant Point hundreds of times. It's just around the corner from where I live on Highway 36, but I understand fully your plight here. If you could sort of give us a brief synopsis, like when you first started this whole process, you had to go through Land Management Committee first, and then how long have you been in the process of getting this dealt with? If you could just answer that first.
Oh, this has been going on. Well, I'm seeing it since June. It's been all summer. I mean, I've gone through and the financial costs. Okay, it's $145 to apply to the land management. Just for them to write a letter to say I'm in violation, it would cost me $117. And I'm like, at this in our economy right now, I don't have that money. Sorry, I mean, just more stress, and it's been very stressful. And all I did. Well, what they assume is I mean, the retaliatory nature of the complaint. I just want you to understand that this isn't a serious matter of, oh, a kid almost got hit or there was an accident. No, there was none of that. Anyways.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that it?
Sure. Just a couple of quick things. One of the main things that I know it's a situation we have to get a resolution to, and want to get a resolution that benefits both the city and you and your wife who's been ill and have had extra stress imposed upon you because of this. When somebody complains about something, we have to go through the process. In this case, it's the bylaw, so we're dealing with, and then it's going through the Land Management Committee. But getting back to the snow plowing and the boat launch, which is the two main activities that happens, and the snow plowing, like in your opinion, you live there, does it hinder the plowing of the snow when they come around that corner? I'm quite familiar with Rose Street, that's further down, but it is, there's encroachments everywhere. But in your opinion, does it impact? Has there ever been an impact? Like, has it physically ever hit it? I know you've removed the rock around it. the stone. And also when the boat launch, I'm not sure the people before, I know I've had issues with, for example, in Scotch Line Road, south of 24, where people are just parking everywhere. And do you think that if you take this or dismantle this fence, that you would have basically a parking lot for trailers for the boat launch? So just the first question's on the snow, and the second is on the boat launch.
Yeah, I mean, sure, if you take the fence down and people see bare grass, there's trailers parked all the way up the sides of the road that encroach on the road. And if you look at the overhead shot again, there's Leslie Frost, and you go to pull out on the road and there's trailers there. You're just waiting for an accident to happen, a very serious one too. So it's just funny. There's a public boat launch with nowhere to turn around and nowhere to park, and it's a zoo. If anyone can save a couple of bucks launching their boat, they're going to be there. So I mean, I'm almost contemplating moving because of how it's blocking local traffic too when they do their 3-point turn back there. There's been neighbors out trying to get down Rose to get up Pleasant Point, and they've got out and had altercations with boaters. And so it's kind of a hectic area. That's what I'm saying. So just keeping a fence up that isn't causing any problems. And it was just brought to hear about this by just some people that got caught running an illegal Airbnb, and not only they have been caught, like they've somehow got off. That's a story for another day. But anyway, so that's kind of the nature of this. It's almost a waste of time, but I guess nothing's a waste of time.
Yeah, I think so. No, nothing's a waste of time when you come to council.
Ron,
every issue is important, but
about the snowplow.
Yeah, go ahead with.
So if you look at the overhead shot again, so it goes straight down to the yellow dot. So from the bottom of your screen to the yellow dot, the plow goes straight that way, dead straight. And then the pickup truck swings around the red dot to the right. That's where it puts its in its start. And there's no problem on that. Fence is so far, it's back from the road. It's down Rose Street a bit. There's been no snow hit it or anything. No. Not
Okay,
even close.
thank you.
Okay, Doug, thanks.
So we have a motion, all in favor? And that's passed. Item 4.3 is speaking to an in-town bypass route for Fenelon Falls. We have Mr. Chris Hanley and Miss Mary Lee Boston. You have 5 minutes between you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, and through you to members of council, CAO Taylor, and staff. Thank you for receiving our presentation today. As Mr. Mayor mentioned, I am Mary Lee Boston. I am the manager of the Fenelon Falls and District Chamber of Commerce. Over the past number of years, the partnership between the City of Kawartha Lakes and the Chamber of Commerce has been highly successful. Together, we have laid the groundwork for progress and success, but we must recognize the challenges that lie ahead. The emerging transportation issues require attention in order to inspire and maintain confidence in our residents and businesses. There is a palpable anxiety in the community regarding the future of the Lindsay Street Bridge, the only way across the bridge right now through town, and with it, a growing concern about the impact on future investment in our community. Without timely action and clear communication, we risk losing momentum and trust. That said, the Chamber is confident that by working together, we can confront these challenges head on. The recent information evening that the Chamber hosted with the Director of Engineering, Mr. Juan Rojas, and Councillor Perry was extremely beneficial and a great first step. We are also working with our partners in economic development on the first Downtown Revitalization 2.0 project in the province. So it is a brand new thing for the province to do downtown revitalization for a second time. And we're really excited about the success of the first project, and we just want to continue to build on that. This is not a sprint, but a marathon. We must remain steadfast in our commitment to proactive solutions. The Chamber is dedicated to fostering an environment that addresses the concerns of our members and the community while igniting support for growth, innovation, and stability. By prioritizing collaboration, transparency, and forward-thinking strategies, we can ensure that our community and North Kawartha thrives, not just today, but for years to come. We do not want to find ourselves playing catch up. Let's stay ahead and united in our collective vision.
Thanks, Mary Lee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council and staff. My name is Chris Hanley. I own a home and a business in Fenelon Falls, and I'm a proactive volunteer in the community. As you are aware, there are 4 key bridge projects being considered either actively or theoretically in North Kawartha. Once complete, they will bring significant benefit to our entire community, not just Fenelon Falls. As you are, we have the existing bridge, which is already a future project, the proposed Clifton pedestrian bridge, which you've heard from me before, the ongoing third concession bypass in Somerville, already an active project, thank you, and the reason for our visit today, a second bridge in Fenelon Falls. It's regarding this latter concept that we rise to discuss today. As per my colleague Mr. Appleton's letter to Mayor and the Budget Committee last fall, we simply seek the single next step in this future. I'm here to underscore the opportunity that this additional infrastructure brings for Kawartha Lakes. During the second crossing study, we learned that much of the pressure on Fenelon Falls' existing bridge is our own creation, and it can't simply be eschewed as weekend traffic. More than 70% of the traffic over that bridge originates within Kawartha Lakes. The pressure is created simply by folks traveling for mail or groceries, or traversing our city from Cameron to Kinmount, or Woodville to Bobcaygeon. Building on the 2006 haul route study and the 2016 corridor study, the second crossing study found that the bypass on the third would support industrial traffic, alleviate heavy trucks in our downtowns, and provide a valuable bypass route around Fenelon Falls. We laud Council's leadership in moving forward with that project in this year's budget. Since that study, there have been 2 considerable factors that influence our local realities. Most notably, the COVID pandemic has accelerated development and therein industrial demands in our community, while simultaneously increasing the number of folks working from home and at their cottage. We have witnessed increased local demand for permanent housing. We see that demand in our community daily. I don't believe that will change, and all the while the GTA will continue to need more of our resources. At the same time, the province has dictated growth. The draft consultant's report on the growth management strategy recommends increases in local residents and employment in Kawartha Lakes, 38 hectares of additional development in Fenelon Falls alone, and vastly increasing our Kawartha Lakes population. This will only increase traffic and demands on our infrastructure. In that context, then, we ask that you continue the next immediate step towards finding the right solution for our community. We don't have the right answer, nor are we attempting to dictate any particular route. Rather, we are asking for that you continue in earnest with what was learned in the second crossing study and begin to scope the correct location for a future second bridge in Fenelon Falls. This is a significant opportunity to protect our existing community, our investments, and support long-term future growth and development. It's an opportunity to correctly poise City of Kawartha Lakes for granting opportunities from upper levels of government. As a sidebar, we've already heard from Mr. Poilievre, our likely future Prime Minister, that he will tie municipal funding to housing completion, just as one example. Ultimately, this is our opportunity to be ready to be able to fully exploit the development that's coming our way for residents and for business. Like you, we want to see community ripe for future investment and prepared to welcome the future. In other words, this is an opportunity to brand the City of Kawartha Lakes as the next place to invest, as the place that's making necessary investments in our future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I get a motion to receive the deputation. Councillor Perry, Councillor Warren. Questions for the deputants? Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mayor. And of course, I want to thank Manager Boston and Chris Hanley for the deputation today and highlighting the success that really the Fenelon and district Chamber of Commerce has had working together with the city in an ongoing productive partnership. So thank you for highlighting that. I would also be remiss, Mayor, if I didn't point out the exceptional delegation from Ward 3, Fenelon Falls in particular, that's with us here in the gallery today in support of their fellow residents and these ideas. My question is, just very briefly, Marilee, you had mentioned that there was a town hall for your chamber members. Director Rojas and I participated, and there really was that sense of there are options for a second bridge in Fenelon Falls, but it's been going on. This has been talked about for 40 years now. There would seem to be a palpable sense of let's get on with it, which I take from your presentation today as being let's get some of the more information on these options, especially so that people can have rightful peace of mind as to what may be going on and we can address some of the uncertainty. Chris, you're very active in the community. Is that your sense as well, that there is a need or a real appetite to proceed with this?
Absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of let's get it done and move forward. People are scared, especially with the recent talk of what's going to happen with our single bridge. It creates a lot of uncertainty, and I think people are worried about what that means for them and their home and businesses.
Thanks very much. And my understanding is there are 3 options in the plan that has been from the original EA that have been on the table for several years. Getting that information started to be able to make a choice is essentially what we're looking to move forward, correct? I see nodding heads. And last but not least, I'm always taken that my understanding is that you mentioned that, what was it, over 70% of traffic using the current bridge are from not just Fenelon, but Kawartha Lakes. Right. And also, I think I saw recently that some 30% of bridge traffic in Fenelon is transiting Kawartha Lakes, not local bridge traffic. Are those statistics, am I on point with my memory on those?
I think that accurately reflects what we learned during the second crossing study, yes.
Thanks. And so, this asset is a bigger Kawartha Lakes picture in addition to being located in Fenelon Falls. And I want to, again, thank the deputants for their contribution ongoing to our community. I know of the countless hours. So thank you, and for coming here today, and for everyone who came to support.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. We have a motion. All in favor? And that's passed. Our next deputation is a request for a review of priority groups for the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit. Diane Engelstad. Ms. Engelstad, you have 5 minutes.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Elmsley and members of council for this opportunity. I live in Fenelon Falls, and from 2021 to 2024, I served on the the Accessibility Advisory Committee. When I read the Accessibility Master Plan, it's clear to me that this city embraces inclusion and accessibility. Can we do more to live up to those intentions? Absolutely. I would like to ask you to reconsider a particular policy adopted by the city in 2020 related to housing. The housing list is the key municipal tool for attending to housing issues. As you know, the wait on that list is now 10 years or more in our municipality, and that's a long time. As they say, if all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. In this case, the sole criteria for eligibility is income. But 4 years ago, Council was presented with a new piece of legislation called the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit, or COB for short. It recognizes that some needs look different than other needs because of particular vulnerability. It was based on Ontario legislation that gave priority for housing to persons fleeing domestic violence or human trafficking. COB took that model and expanded the list of priority groups to include persons with disabilities, among others. It grants a direct subsidy to persons in those priority groups at the discretion of the service manager. This enables them to bypass the housing list and gain access to market rent. In other words, the new legislation was leveling the playing field for certain groups due to their additional vulnerability. In 2020, it may not have been entirely clear to Council that persons with disabilities were not included for the City of Kawartha Lakes. This omission from the CKL policy was never questioned or challenged. This, I believe, continues to place this particularly vulnerable group at a disadvantage. Disabilities come in all shapes, and the suffering they cause is very individual. Many people living with disability can and do work, at least part-time, especially with accommodations, while others will be prevented from working. But one thing is certain, disability has an indisputable impact on income. We witness that in the extreme cases of homelessness in our own backyard. In the Homeless Survey of 2021, which counts and interviews those who are homeless at a given point in time, more than half of those surveyed in this city identified as having a cognitive disability. Teresa Jordan, Executive Director of Community Living Trent Highlands, told me that she knows 50 adults with developmental disabilities since birth who are currently living in slum conditions. People with developmental disabilities should not be held to the same expectations navigating social housing as someone whose housing need may be temporary due to present circumstances. Inclusion means making adjustments and setting priorities to level the playing field. My son is 28 years old with disabilities that are considered severe despite his charms. Through his lifetime, he will be limited to disability income well below the poverty line for housing and all other personal needs. My husband and I, now pensioners, have built elaborate community scaffolding around him, what we call just enough support, including a transitional apartment in our home at significant personal cost. Keep in mind that families of persons with intellectual disabilities have generally foregone employment income in the cause of caregiving responsibilities, reducing their own financial resources by a considerable amount over time. Without a home for the long term, the carefully built social scaffolding and support would simply fall apart. This recognition and all the complex implications of resulting poverty for many persons and their caregiving families are the reasons the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit specifically included persons with disabilities. It is up to the city to ensure that our policies and practices reflect the intent of such legislation. In Fenelon Falls, my son is a celebrity, and so many people greet him by name and engage him in a chat. I like to think Jeremy and others with intellectual disabilities in Kawartha Lakes bring out the best in people. I have seen that happening every day of Jeremy's life. You have the opportunity to improve access to affordable housing for a population group in the city of Kawartha Lakes that needs your attention. Please ask the service manager to add persons with disabilities to the priorities that will provide the range of discretion intended by the COB legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. You're amazingly on time for 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to receive Councillor Perry, Councillor Joyce? Questions, Councillor Perry?
Thanks very much, Mayor, and I want to thank the deputant, known better, I think, probably as Jeremy's mom, for her eloquent words today and her very on-point and succinct presentation of the issue, as well as all her work on the Accessibility Committee for our city and other projects that she's been involved with around town. I guess my question is, and just so my fellow councillors know, I will be bringing a follow-up motion at our next council meeting. It sounds to me like the nub of the matter here is that there's a gap or an omission, that persons living with disabilities is not on the priority list for affordable housing here in Kawartha Lakes. Is that fair?
Yes, that is fair. And the way it is written into the presentation that was given in 2020 is it's listed as priority order, which does not include persons with disabilities. It does include seniors along with some of the groups that were included in the original Ontario legislation. But in the legislation itself, and you can read that if you go back to that presentation that was given in 2020, what the intent of the legislation was is it had Group A and Group B. And Group A is people who deserve to be looked at for their own vulnerability as a priority group. And then Group B are other people that could also have access to that if it was possible. So they are part of, they should be seen on equal basis, that then the service manager should be able to have discretion among all those priority groups in Group A.
Right. Thanks very much, and thanks for the opportunity bringing to this council to be able to amend or fill that gap. Thank you, and I want to, again, thank you for your deputation today, and of course, pretty much half of Fenelon Falls for being here in support, which is how we do things in Ward 3. Thank you.
Was that an editorial?
100%, Mayor.
Yeah, okay.
Shamelessly.
Councillor Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you, and thank you, Ms. Engelstead, for your presentation. I just wanted to say that there's myself, Deputy Mayor McDonald, and Councillor Warren. We're all on the Social Services Committee, and we'll at our next Social Service Committee we'll bring that forward. And I will say our social services people are very thorough and competent, so we'll address this and see where it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Warren. Sorry. One more, Diane.
Yes, so that's okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Diane, thank you very much for coming. And yes, we will be looking at this for sure. I just wondered if you had any information of other municipalities and what they have done.
Yes, I don't have as much information as I would like yet, and I hope to look into that, but I do know that Ottawa, for one, and possibly Kingston, they have done a lot in this area. And my understanding is that in 2024, if not 2023, I think it was 2024, there were 60 applications that went to, for people with intellectual disabilities in the city of Ottawa. And as far as I know, maybe Catherine, maybe you know, whether they were all accepted, but Ottawa's much bigger than our city, but that's what they did in Ottawa. And the reason they were able to do that is because they have a question on the application for housing, if asking people if they would like to self-identify as having a disability. And we don't have that on our housing list.
Well, that's good information to take forward, and thank you for making the deputation.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
We have a motion, so all in favor? And that's passed. Our next deputation is a request for tree encroachment adjacent to Bank Road in Seagrave. Chris Kerr and Terry Kerr. Thank you for coming. You have 5 minutes. There's a button at the bottom, I think. There you go.
Good afternoon, Council. We're here from 44 Bank Road. My name is Chris Kerr. Terry Kerr. I brought pictures with me to show what the property looked like before we planted the trees. So this one here shows the ditch with the trees that we've cleaned up and actually removed, got the grass growing. And the next picture that I have there shows the spruce trees that we planted. Turns out they're 3 feet on township property, and that's why we're here today. We'd like to think of being green. Down to the fence we built was repurposed, cedar rail fence, trying to keep the country look as well. As far as the ditch, visibly, it doesn't affect no slow plow or anybody seeing around a corner or anything else. The trees were actually planted shortly after we moved in 2022, September. They've been there now just over 2 years. Apparently, the report came in that they were planted as well. Someone said we shouldn't have planted them there, which that did not happen. They were told that was, I think it was just last year they were planted. They've been there a while. Yeah, the trees were up first. Our fence went up the following year. I don't know what else to say here. Yeah.
I take it what you're asking is that the trees that are on city property be left there,
Yes.
okay? So we hear your deputation today. I know Councillor Joyce is very active on the file, and I can tell you that this will be sent forward to our council meeting of the 28th, and I'm sure Councillor Joyce will bring forward something at that time, and council will debate it.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Can I get, let's get a motion to receive. I'm sorry, did you have anything else you wanted to
that's it.
impart?
That's it.
Or your partner?
No,
No?
that's it, yeah.
You're good? Okay. Councillor Joyce, motion to receive and forward to the next council meeting, and Councillor Yeo is seconding. Councillor Joyce, you had a question or comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I just do have some questions, and thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Kerr, for coming, making this deputation. So just a couple questions here is, did any neighbors have complained to you about these trees?
No, the neighbors, actually, once we did it, they all liked it because we
They
actually
liked
cleaned
it,
up that
okay,
whole corner.
yeah.
Complimenting.
And you've been living on Bank Road since 2022?
Two, yes.
Now, for those not familiar with Bank Road, it runs straight and it goes into the loop. So I'm just referring to the loop part only. You've been around it.
Yes,
Any other encroachments around this loop road?
tons.
Tons. Yes, I'm estimating 60 to 70% of, in many cases, just natural forest coming out to the road.
Yes.
There's also, describe corners to me in this loop in terms of,
There's lots of blind corners.
yeah, so of all the corners, which corner has the most open part?
Ours does.
Exactly. So council here knows and staff knows I don't like making exceptions. You know, dangerous precedences, but you have to look at things in, now I'm getting into my statement. You have to look at things in context, okay? So in context, these trees are not a problem. And a complaint was lodged, and this is the other thing, a complaint was not lodged by a neighbor, but by staff. And we all know that staff are supposed to look the other way. So why your trees were picked on, nobody knows. Let's just move on from that. And unfortunately, through a bureaucratic error, my memo didn't get into today's meeting, but we will be looking after this at the next council meeting.
Okay.
Be assured of that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I take it that's the speech you were going to give at council, but now won't. That's yeah. We have a motion to receive and forward to council. All those in favor? And that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next deputation is a request for water bill reduction for 12 Moines Court. Lindsay, Miss Peggy Brooks, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members and Mayor Emsley, sorry. Thank you for listening today. My name is Peggy Brooks. My husband and I live at 12 Moines Court in Lindsay. Our house is only 9 years old. I am here today to dispute our water bill for the period of July the 1st to September the 30th, 2024, in the amount of $983.10. We received a notice on our door on approximately September the 20th, 2024, that they could not read our water usage on the reader outside. I called the water department the next day, and they said they would send someone out on Thursday, September the 26th, 2024. They also asked me if I could give them a reading from our meter inside.
When I went and checked our meter inside, I discovered that it was blank and also not working. A gentleman came on September 26th and replaced the outside reader. He tried 3 readers before he had one that would work. He did not look at the meter in our house at that time. A week or so later, we received our water bill in the mail, which was $983.10. We were shocked, to say the least. I called the water department again, and they said they would send someone out to check the inside meter. On approximately November the 14th, the gentleman came and checked the inside meter. He said, "You are right, it's not working. I will be back tomorrow to replace it." I stayed home the next day, and he never showed up, nor did I receive a phone call. Personnel at the water board kept telling us to check toilets, etc., for leaks, which we did, and we had no issues. After many emails to Colin McGee and Linda Liotti at the water department, which I believe you have copies of, we finally got a new water meter installed inside on November 21st, 2024. This gentleman also told me that the outside reader that was installed was not new, and the next day someone came and installed a brand new reader outside. We are also home and retired with no children living with us. We do own a hot tub. My husband emptied the hot tub on April the 30th, 2024, and refilled it. Our water bill for the period April 1st to June 30th, 2024, which included that time, was still only $334.72. If you check our previous water bills, we have never had a bill anywhere near this amount. They are usually around $350 or less for 3 months. We just received our bill for the period October the 1st to December 31st, 2024, and it is $219.78. Linda Liotti told me over the phone that our old meter would be sent away to be checked, and there would be no charge to us for this service. To date, I have not heard anything regarding this. We believe this inaccuracy was all because of faulty mechanical issues with the water meter. We are asking you please to reevaluate this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. I get a motion to receive the deputation. Deputy Mayor McDonald, Councillor Warren. Questions, Deputy Mayor McDonald.
Yeah, through you. I just, a couple things that you mentioned there that, you know, you emptied the hot tub prior and the bill was $334, and then that's a lot of water just filling a hot tub and everything up, and then meanwhile you get a bill for $900, and so So I will find out where your issue is with the meter with Linda and get back to you. I've talked to you and spoken to you before, so I will follow up with you. And again, no decisions are being made here today, and I'll follow up with you when I find out.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right document here in this submission of this deputation. Are we referring to the bill of September 26, 2024?
The 983?
Okay, to me, it looks like a simple matter of math here. Each billing cycle is 3 months.
Yes.
Which is about 90, it's almost spot on, 90 cubic meters of water. Or there's a 90 there. The billing from May to September is 4 months. It's still 30 units per month.
It's 3 months, July 1st to September 30th.
Okay, what I'm looking here is May 28 to September 26. Oh, I see, but if you scroll down, I see May 28 to September 26, 121 units.
Counselor, I
that's
have
what
the
I
bill in front of me, and it's July 1st to September 30th.
Yes.
I'm looking at the next page, and to me, it shows a cycle of May 28th to September 26th, so I don't know. Okay.
That's what it says in my
I'll
bill,
leave it
July
to
1st
Councilor
to
McDonald
September
to
30th.
figure this one out.
Any other questions for the deputy? Seeing none, thank you for coming today. It will be brought forward to our next regular council meeting, and the deputy mayor has promised to do some homework on it, so you will hear back from us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay? All in favor? And that's passed. Last deputation of the day is Mr. Jeff Hancock on a request for site plan exemption for 4027 Highway 121 in Kinmount. Is Mr. Hancock on Zoom? There you are.
I am. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. You have 5 minutes. Please, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I just want to explain. My wife and I, we bought Edgewater Grill in Kinmount 3 years ago. We've operated the business very successful the past 3 years. It's in a great location there. I actually bought it for my wife and my 2 adult children to give them a place to work. The business also employs 3 other individuals. Right now, it's a takeout food business. So it operates very well between mid-May to about middle of October. And then when the weather turns cold, we obviously have to shut it down because people don't want to get their food through a takeout window. So what I've been trying to do is get a site plan exemption to allow us to build a small addition onto the building that would give us some indoor seating with the hope that we can expand the season that it's open. Hopefully getting it to where it could be open year round. So my understanding is staff has the authority to provide a site plan exemption under a couple of requirements. One of them being that the addition is less than 1,000 square meters, which it is. My addition, I'm only looking at, I believe it's like 68 square meters. But where it doesn't apply is the addition can't be any bigger than 25% of the current building area. I'm looking at expanding by about 58%. So today I'm just asking for council to consider giving us a site plan exemption.
Okay, thank you. We'll get a motion to receive and see if there are any questions. Councillor Warren, Councillor Yeo. Questions? Councillor Warren, do you have a question or a comment?
I have a comment, just to let Mr. Hancock know that I will, in the next couple weeks before council, look into this with staff, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Joyce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'm actually familiar with your place here. When I used to ride a motorcycle, it was a good motorcycle stop. I'm just curious.
Right.
What do you need why do you need an exemption? What are you up against? There's no detail here.
Yeah, so originally we were going to do a bigger addition, and the requirements coming back from Court of the Lakes would have cost us like over $40,000 just to get a site plan approval. So that basically killed the bigger addition. So with working with the city of Court of the Lakes, they recommended that if we go for a smaller addition, this might be a viable path to getting the site plan exemption, allowing us to do the expansion.
But why do you need an exemption? That property seems to be quite large. I don't understand why. What's the roadblock you're running into that requires an exemption?
I think it's
Yeah, I
cost.
appreciate your question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say I don't understand myself, so I appreciate your question.
Okay. We have a motion to receive, so all in favor? Thank you. And that's done. Thank you for coming, Mr. Hancock, and Councillor Warren will investigate and bring it forward to our next council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of our deputations. We'll now move on. There's no correspondent. We do have a presentation, and our presentation is item 6.1 on the agenda. It's the situational assessment of a four-pillar approach to addressing the drug poisoning crisis. We have Kate Hall, a health promoter from the Haliburton, Kawartha, Northumberland, Peterborough Board of Health. Vidya Sunil, an epidemiologist with the Haliburton, Kawartha, Northumberland, Peterborough Board of Health. And Julie Elliott, Chair, Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Northumberland Drug Strategy. Welcome. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Mayor Elmsley and members of council. And thank you so much for having us this morning and giving us the opportunity to speak with you about this situational assessment report. As you mentioned, I'm here with Vidya Sunil, who's epidemiologist with HKPR, and also the chair of our drug strategy, Julie Elliott. And so, sorry, here's the clicker here. Sorry, there we go. Got the arrows right. Just a brief agenda for what I'm going to go through here today is the introduction and purpose of the assessment, why we did it, a brief overview of the drug poisoning crisis. Also, Vidya is going to share some local data trends to provide some context locally. I'll talk a little bit about the four-pillar approach that we've used in our response to the drug poisoning crisis, and also some recommendations that have come out of the report for action. And so, first of all, the purpose of the report really was to provide a situational assessment of the local drug trends, drug use, poisonings, and also, as I mentioned, our four-pillar approach to addressing the crisis. And so it describes the situation through various data sources. It reviews some programmatic actions from various organizations and agencies in our communities, working within the four pillars of prevention and education, treatment, harm reduction, and community safety. And it, again, addresses some or puts forward some recommendations for action. And so I will say that it has been a collaborative effort between the drug strategy and also the health unit. So just as we begin here, the drug poisoning crisis, I do want to say that, we're going to be talking about some numbers in here, of course, and behind all the numbers are people, are our families and our friends and our neighbors and people in our communities. And so it can be a difficult topic to hear and to talk about. And so I do encourage people to practice self-care during the presentation and also afterwards. So the drug poisoning crisis is characterized by unprecedented deaths from an unregulated toxic supply. It's also an unpredictable supply. It's rapidly changing, and it's growing increasingly toxic. It's a very complex health issue, and this health issue is largely fueled by illegally produced synthetic opioids. That's further complicated also by the contamination of the supply, other substances that are added in, resulting in greater risks to drug poisoning, death, and injury, and significant impacts to people and families and our communities as a whole. Some key data from Health Canada in the first 6 months of 2024 found that 84% of the accidental opioid toxicity deaths in Canada occurred in British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario, predominantly affecting males, 72%, among the ages of 30 to 39 years of age. Fentanyl was involved in 79% of those deaths. 65% also involved a stimulant, and 82% of the deaths involved opioids that were non-pharmaceutical. So I'm going to turn it over to Vidya right now, who's going to share some of the local data trends to put it into our context.
Thank you, Kate. Can everyone hear me and see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Kate, I'm not sure how the slide gets progressed. I would say next and you'll change it. Just confirming.
Yes, I will do that for you.
Okay, thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. And the next couple of slides, I'll be speaking to the opioid-related harms, including emergency department visits, hospitalizations, and death trends within the health unit region as well as by county. So, the graph on the left, as you can see, is represented as bars, and each colored bar is a specific geography. For your interest, the gray bar is the city of Kawartha Lakes data, and then the dark green is for Ontario, for health unit region, and the light green is for Ontario excluding the health unit region. And these are all age standardized rates, which would mean that the age structure has been taken into consideration for meaningful comparison. So as you can see in the graph, from 2019 to 2023, the emergency department visits represented as age standardized rates per 100,000 population. It increased from 2019 to 2021, which was the pandemic year, and then it went down, dropped down to the pre-pandemic level. Just to highlight the city of Kawartha Lakes data, it increased from 142 visits per 100,000 population in 2019 to around 210 hospitalizations per 100,000 population in 2021, and then it decreased to around 166 per 100,000 population for 2023. Overall, for the health unit region, it was 1.6 times more than Ontario excluding health unit rates for us for specific 2023 year. For 2023, again, by age group, the highest rate was among 25 to 44 years age group, and it was the same for all the different counties. And the graph on the right is the pictorial representation of the same data, but it just shows, for your easier comparison between the health unit region and Ontario excluding health unit region. And you can see in 2021 specifically is the highlighted row, which has the highest rate for both Ontario and also for Ontario excluding HKPR as well as for the health unit region. Next slide, please. So this slide here shows the hospitalization rates. As you have seen for the emergency department visits, you saw the trend going up and then down after the pandemic year of 2021. For hospitalization, there wasn't such a trend you can see here. It's fluctuating because of the very low number of hospitalizations. And these are also rates per 100,000 population for meaningful comparison represented in the graph on the left. The color of the barcodes are the same as I explained previously, and you can see the rates for hospitalization rates per 100,000 population for city of Kawartha Lakes increased from 24 to 34, 24 in 2019 to 34 in 2023. There wasn't a specific increase as we have seen for the emergency department visits that we have seen for the pandemic year. So the graph on the right is again comparison with the provincial data excluding the health unit region. The health unit region was 101.3 times more than the provincial data for the hospitalization for 2023 specifically. The age group, again, the highest rate was amongst 25 to 44 years of age group. Next slide, please. So this slide shows here the death trends. Again, this is the graph above. On the top is the mortality rate. This is a group rate, not an age standardized one. So just make sure, just to let you know that meaningful comparison should only be made using this age standardized rates, and this is the group rate per 100,000 population again. So the group rates for the health unit overall, it slightly decreased from 2018 to 2019, and then it went up to 2021, which was the pandemic year, and we saw the highest number of deaths of 50 reported for that year, and then it went down for 2022 and 2023. So the table below shows the data by county, and as you can see, the number of deaths reported for each county went up again up until 2021 and then decreased. For City of Kawartha Lakes, we have seen, pretty much remaining the same from 2020 to 2023, ranged from 20 to 24 deaths reported for the calendar year as represented on the table. Next slide, please. So this slide here shows the proportion of the deaths reported to us, of which fentanyl was present at the time of death. So 86.1% of the deaths that happened in 2023 had identified fentanyl at the time of death. Overall, for the 8 years time period from 5 years, 2018 to 2023, we have had 205 deaths reported during that time period. Next graph, please. Next slide. So this slide basically shows the same data as a percentage for each of the indicators. For example, the first set we show there, the opioid-related emergency department visits. 53.8% of all opioid-related emergency department visits reported for the region. 53.8% was from City of Kawartha Lakes. So the next one, the hospitalization, 77.1% of all hospitalizations related to opioid related causes were reported from City of Kawartha Lakes. For deaths, 66.7% of all deaths reported related to opioid related causes were from City of Kawartha Lakes. Next slide, please. In terms of opioid prescription, this just gives you the trend of how the prescription numbers look like, and these exclude those that are over the counter, that has opioid, that's an over the counter medication, and also those are indicator for opioid agonist treatment, and those that are treated for cough, diarrhea, and medical assistance in dying. As you can see, the numbers went down from 2017 to 2020, and then it stayed pretty much similar up until 2023. There was a change in guidelines that happened in 2017, which could be potentially the reason why the numbers went slightly down from 2017 to 2020. Coming to the point of, with 1 out of every 5 adults in Canada seeking healthcare for chronic pain, restricting the access of prescription opioids may lead to some people seeking relief from the unregulated supply. Next slide, please. So this shows the trends in the number of harm reduction supplies provided through various partners. So to highlight the needle exchange, exchange during the time period decreased from significantly reduced from 2019 up until, as you can see in the graph, up until 2022. At the same time period, from 2019 to 2022, you can see an increase in the foil that has been provided through the various partners. This shows a potential shift in the use of injection to inhalation. The next slide, please. So next couple of slides speaks to a survey that we have done with people with lived and living experience of using drugs. We have had the survey done between 2023 December to 2024 March. So we received 146 survey responses. And as you can see, 70 responses were received from County of Haliburton and City of Kawartha Lakes combined. We had a slightly higher proportion of males who responded among the survey respondents, and among the age groups, 25 to 44 years of age group represented a higher proportion than other age groups. On the right, the data that's described there includes, we asked for how many, the frequency of using of drug, and around 120 out of 143 respondents said they use daily or more than once a week. Among the drug of choice, response has responded. Stimulant of choice provided was 104 out of 146 respondents said that they use crystal meth, and 102 out of 146 said they use fentanyl as a drug of choice. Among the method of use, 141, majority of the people reported that they use smoking as a mode of use, 141 out of 146, and 50 out of 146 said they use injection as a mode of use. Among the people who said they use injection, 2/3 have reused the injection equipment in the past 6 months, based on the response we received. Next slide, please. So this shows the survey local needs that were identified by the respondents. Amongst the broader supports within the community kind of local need identified, 71% said having a safe and secure place to live, 68% identified opioid agonist treatment, 67% identified community support groups, and 47% identified healing circles. Among harm reduction supports, majority identified drug testing kits, which is 82%, better access to harm reduction supplies and equipment, peer-assisted consumption, and targeted naloxone distribution as some of the needs identified. Among the service of interest, if they were provided within the community, 81% said they would use consumption and treatment site if it was provided within the community, 70% said drug checking services, and 79% said safer supply program. I think that's pretty much in terms of data. I will pass it on to Kate now. Thank you.
Thanks, Vidya. Just like to speak a little bit about the four-pillar approach to addressing the crisis. And again, this is how we've responded as a community under this four-pillar model. And this model originated with the Canadian Drugs and Substances Strategy that was developed through Health Canada. It promotes a collaborative approach to reducing the harms associated with substance use, and it's founded on principles of trauma-informed care and anti-stigma. The model is widely used by regional and municipal drug strategies across the province as a way to use common language around the cross-sectoral efforts that are needed in order to address this issue. So I'd first like to start with our first pillar here, which is prevention and education. So we know that investments in programs that support families and address youth mental health are really critical to reducing the risk of substance use disorders later in adulthood. And so I have a few programs here. On the right side are ones that are focused more on families and prenatal and also early childhood, the Healthy Babies, Healthy Children program, for example, and also the Nurse Family Partnership program, our home visiting programs that are very focused and intensive in following families for the first 2 years of a child's life. And so, again, some really great supports and resources can be provided to families in that time. Also on the right-hand side are programs that tend to be focused on youth. We have youth wellness hubs, for example. We have one that's been operating in Haliburton County for about 4 or 5 years now, at least. It's quite successful. There's one coming online in Port Hope this year as well, a hub and spoke model, and we know that there has been application in City of Kawartha Lakes, I believe, through the Boys and Girls Club Kawartha Lakes around becoming a youth wellness hub. And so we know, again, it's an evidence-based approach to providing, addressing gaps in service around mental health and substance use for youth. Boys and Girls Clubs, of course, which you do have active here in CKL. Preventure is a program, again, that's delaying or reducing substance use, again, in youth, an evidence-based program. Youth wellness hubs have picked that up and are offering that and partnering with schools in our school district. And then Planet Youth, which is the Icelandic model, some of you may have heard it called, is one model that we're exploring throughout our health units. And I am going to turn it over to Julie now to speak to the next couple of slides.
Okay. I need
You're
to see
on
the
mute.
slides though. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. So treatment, we have a comprehensive integrated treatment programs are required. This includes physician, nurses, nurse practitioners, therapists, and pharmacists, and connections to social services and harm reduction. So we have community-based withdrawal management and treatment, which is forecast as a community-based addiction treatment provider operating in all 3 communities within the health unit region with offices in Minden, Lindsay, Cobourg, and Campbellford. Number of clients remained constant at around 1,250 to 1,300 annually, with the exception of an increase in 2021 at the beginning of the pandemic. peaking at 2,124 in 2021-22. So clients seeking treatment for addictions to cocaine, crack, cocaine, opiates, cannabis, and methamphetamines. There are no publicly funded residential withdrawal management or treatment programs located in the County of Haliburton, City of Kawartha Lakes, or Northumberland County. However, we do have a private facility, CCFA, Canadian Center for Addictions, which offers one community bed to local residents who can afford to pay for the cost of $30,000 for a 1 month private treatment bed and who are in need and ready. They can apply through Forecast in Cobourg, and it's a first come, first served basis. We have the opiate and agnostic treatment. It's an evidence-based approach for treating opiate use disorder. We have the RAM Clinic. RAM Clinic provides quick barrier-free treatment for individuals who are experiencing substance use disorder. Assessments, counseling, and prescriptions for medications may be offered. RAM clinics are located at Ross Memorial Hospital in Lindsay, Northumberland Hills Hospital in Cobourg, and Haliburton, and Highland Mental Services in Minden. Clinic operations vary by location and are not consistent across the area, usually opening about, one afternoon a week. We have Prescribed Safer Supply. Prescribed Safer Supply is a medical delivery model to provide pharmaceutical medications to individuals with substance use disorder as an alternative to the unpredictable and potent unregulated street supply. Physicians can prescribe safer supply at their discretion. Clinics in the County of Haliburton and City of Kawartha Lakes provide pharmaceutical medication for the treatment of substance use disorders related to opiates, alcohol, and benzodiazepines. And then we have our new Heart Hubs. Ontario government announced funding for 19 new homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs. I guess we're still waiting to hear back whether we get approved for this or not. And so the hubs will, they reflect regional priorities by connecting people with complex needs to comprehensive treatment and preventative services. It is anticipated that these hubs will add up to 375 highly supportive housing units in addition to addiction recovery and treatment beds that will help people transition to more stable long-term housing. With a focus on treatment and recovery, Heart Hubs will not offer safe supply, supervised drug consumption, or needle exchange programs. And that's still to be determined whether we get approved or not. So next slide is harm reduction. In my work as a harm reduction outreach worker, I do community cleanups, brief counseling, community referrals to other organizations, and I help assist in navigation, and I distribute different various harm reduction supplies to our folk within the community. A few supplies and services distributed and offered in our communities are as follows. There's the needle exchange program. There are currently 14 needle syringe sites located throughout the health unit region. We do wound care kits. We do we have a drug test strip kits. A drug test strip distribution program was implemented in April 2024. Through the program, harm reduction agencies can provide fentanyl, xylazine, or benzodiazepine test strip kits and education to clients. We have the naloxone distribution and administration. There are currently 19 organizations who are distributing naloxone through ONP and HU in 27 pharmacies who are part of this program. It is a voluntary program, and not all pharmacies carry naloxone kits. And currently 3 local police services and 8 fire services across the health unit region also participate in this program. Overdose prevention services. There are currently no overdose prevention services with an exemption from Health Canada operating in the County of Haliburton, City of Kawartha Lakes, or Northumberland County. However, Tweakeasy Cobourg operates as an unfunded and volunteer-run OPS. It was established in response to a need to offer a safe space to consume inhalation drugs, access supports, and experience community connection. In its first year of operation, from March 17th to December 31st, 2023, there was a total of 584 visits to Tweakeasy. Harm reduction and other supplies were distributed, and overdose response was provided. 4 team members / visitors have pursued treatment and recovery because of their experience with this OPS. We also have mobile outreach. Mobile outreach services are particularly effective in rural communities characterized by low population density and no or few transportation options, public or private, to access harm reduction services, so that we have PARN and we have the Road Ahead by CMHA. We have community health center and community paramedicine programs, which engage in outreach that provides medical assessment and treatment. HKLN drug strategy. Recent activities of the drug strategy include the survey, where we surveyed the people who use drugs to better understand their drug use practices and harm reduction needs for overdose prevention, collaborating on this situational assessment, reporting and engaging in community conversations about the solutions to the drug poisoning crisis. And then Kate, I believe you're doing 18 community safety.
Thank you, Jules. Policing associations provincially recognize substance use disorder as a public health issue, requiring some health-centered diversion options and responses that are evidence-based. Excuse me. So decreasing criminalization of controlled substances, for example. Some examples are police and court diversion for simple possession. And again, that's discretionary. We do not have decriminalization for simple possession in Ontario. It is illegal. However, police do have discretion through legislation and through their guidance through the prosecutor's office to offer health-centered options in certain instances. And then there are also targeted exemptions to the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. For example, for a safe consumption site to operate, you need an exemption from the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. And so those exist for very specific interventions that are of a population health nature. And then we also have community response units through our policing services that have other professionals as well that do attend crisis calls and provide support. So those are great programs that are happening again throughout our communities. And back to Julie.
All right, so we have recommendations for action. The following recommendations are informed by the evidence and information provided in the SA report and align with recommendations from the Chief Medical Officer of Health Ontario in his annual report, Balancing Act, an all-of-society approach to substance use and harms. There are overarching recommendations that inform policy and practice and more specific recommendations for actions at the local level. So our implications for policy and practice are to engage people with lived and living experience, adopt a practice of nothing about us without us, and meaningfully engage with people with lived and living experiences in all planning and decisions on programs and services. We need to be at the tables when decisions are made and services are explored. So to address the urgency, advocate for the creation of a provincial drug strategy task force and paid coordinator to focus on a provincial response to the drug poisoning crisis that includes building partnerships between government and community agencies. Number 3 is advocate for access to real-time data on drug poisonings. Next slide. Number 4 is invest in upstream prevention and early interventions. Number 5 is proactively address structural stigma within your organization. Number 6 is expand harm reduction service provision. Number 7 is expand mobile outreach for harm reduction and medical treatment. Number 8 is build capacity in the Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Northumberland Drug Strategy Network. Number 9 is establish direct access pathways to care, withdrawal management, and treatment. And number 10 is to pursue evidence-based and health-centered diversion programs. So our next steps: share the report and recommendations with communities, supply priority setting and planning for 2025 with the Drug Strategy Network Steering Committee and local drug strategy groups, encouraging community partners working within the 4 pillars to adopt recommendations to work on in 2025 that aligns with their priorities. Okay, so here we are. Thank you on behalf of the HKLN Drug Strategy and HKPR District Health Unit. The full report and infographics can be found at www.hklndrugstrategy.ca, or you can follow up with requests, inquiries related to this report at the email harmreduction@hkpr.on.ca. Yeah. So I guess that's it. Thank you very much for having us. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Can I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Joyce, Councillor Deputy Mayor McDonald. Questions, comments? Councillor Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I have 3 questions. I'm going to ask you to bounce around to some different slides. So my first question is to Mr. Neal. I don't know how else to frame it with the trends death slide. Do you have any, so what's interesting here is after 2021, all regions significantly dropped except City of Kawartha Lakes. It's actually getting worse. Do you have any stats or any thoughts or information on why that is?
No, I like there's no explanation as of, and again, like Kate might be able to speak to more around, the details around what, in a harm reduction perspective, what could be the reason, and Julie too. In terms of data specifically, this data is provided to us by the coroner's office, and these are basically deaths that happened among our residents. So they can be, within our region, or, could have happened external to our region. So just wanted to kind of highlight that, deaths are among our residents. So I will let Kate speak to if there is any anything that we think. Again, like towards in Kawartha Lakes, closer to Peterborough, closer to Durham region. So there could be several things. It might not have happened within the region itself. So I'll just that's the data caveat I just wanted to speak to. But maybe Kate or Julie, you might have some thoughts around what could be the reason why the deaths are the numbers as we see.
I don't know the facts on the deaths, but I will see like people using and hiding, people using people while using alone is a big risk, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking at our responses, and so I would want to dig a little deeper, and because again, we just see the numbers, and we don't necessarily know the circumstances, and know the chain of events that may have led to that death, and whether there were opportunities for intervention along that chain of events that happened. So I think it would need us to look a little further, and I think really, again, speaking to the community of people, because we do find that, for example, in communities that do have a tight group of folks in community, also they do tend to look after each other to some extent. And if those resources and such are available to them, like harm reduction supplies, like naloxone, if they're readily available to people in community, they will use them within their own community as well, as part of the response, right? As part of that response to reduce the risk. So I would be looking at all of our points of response, whether we look at our emergency department visits, whether we look at our EMS response, and what that looks like when we're attending a scene, and does everybody carry naloxone, as a life-saving medication as well, and so those are some of the areas that I would be looking at and looking to dig a little bit deeper.
Well, thank you. We're going to be working together. I'm newly appointed on the health unit, so I'll be asking that question more, to where the gaps are. That's a great answer, though, is we got to look at what happened for that and address those gaps. If you can move to the slide on the prescribing of opioids, new versus existing. Yeah. Now, so I'm curious, and you may not be able to answer this question, but those that are abusing, what percentage were previously prescribed due to pain or chronic pain and then are now buying drugs off the street versus those that are just looking to experiment, get high, and they get hooked anyways?
I'm not sure what the statistics are around addiction from prescription medication that then has continued. We can look into that, because I'm sure there are likely some numbers out there. This in particular shows that there was guidance around prescribing for physicians, and it was tightened up around that time. And so it was, there were prescribing practices when OxyContin first came out, for example, and those it took a few years before the prescribing practices changed around that. And this was one of those guidance changes. And so prescribing practices diminished. Again, 1 in 5 people is seeking medical help for pain management. If they do not get pain management from their prescriber, from their physician, they may seek it elsewhere. So we know that males of a certain age, and particularly in the trades, for example, we know that there's a high incidence of people who may have been seeking for medications for other things that have gone a different route.
Okay, thank you. I'm actually a former continuing medical education professional. I was actually involved when they brought around the contract between the physician and the patient on prescribing opiates. And based on what you're saying now, that contract and that ethics and demand from the physician is still ongoing to tighten up the.
Well, the prescribing practices have changed again, because at the time when it changed in 2016-17, it said again they were discouraged from prescribing to anyone who had a previous opioid or any other addiction, right? So again, if you say no to that person, they may seek something elsewhere. But the practices have changed again, most recently this past year in 2024, to again just allow for better conversations to happen and better options to be brought forward to the table to meet people's needs.
Thank you. That last question is the recommendations for action, page 2. By the way, I like your recommendations for action, but explain what is number 5 there? What is structural stigma, and do you sense that our organization here, Kawartha Lakes, do we have that problem?
I think everywhere has that problem, to be honest, and I think it's one of the biggest barriers to people seeking help and to moving forward as a community, because we have biases, and we have unconscious biases that we don't even know about until they sort of bubble up in a situation that we're confronted with. But I think organizational stigma and structural stigma is really looking at, our health unit as well. Looking at our policies and saying, are there any barriers or any stigmatizing language within our policies that would prohibit somebody from looking for support, for example, or that would be a barrier to somebody to doing the work that they do in a way that's comfortable for them. So I think that there are certainly audit tools and things like that. So it's looking at policies, it's looking at the culture of the organization. As well, the language that we use to talk about people who use substances as well, and so it's there are certainly some tools and things like that out there that we can look at organizationally.
Thank you. So you're going to proactively help us in case we have any gaps there too. Perfect. Thank you. Oh, that's all I got.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McDonald.
Yeah, thank you through you. Thank you very much for your presentation today. It's definitely an issue that we need to address. But as going forward, I'm just looking at, we have a lot of programs. In a couple slides, you say you're successful, but I don't see any data saying that, where's our data saying that, are there people recovering and so on? And I know that in the future, you have a lot of recommendations in that, but in the future, I would really like to hear some good stories about maybe the people who have recovered and so on, because and you have identified what, where, who, how, and all this kind of stuff. I would like to see some data to say, that our recovery rate is this, instead of all the things that you're talking about, but nowhere does it say that we have any successes on this according to all the graphs. So in the future, and I wish you the best, because I know it's a very tough thing to do, but if we do have some success stories, it would be nice.
That's a great point. Thank you so much.
Well, can I speak up for a sec? I am one of those success stories, so just to let you know. I am in recovery, and I've worked very hard for it, and you know, my job reflects that. So being able to work in this field, yeah. But I like the idea.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to the data.
Councillor Ashmore.
Sorry, I was just going to speak about. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to speak specifically around the data piece. So the data that we presented today are basically made available through, the ministry sites or the other, specifically from the ministry around the emergency department, which is hospitalization and mortality and so on. So I think, more data can be definitely provided if it comes to us. So I just wanted to kind of provide that as an additional point. So whatever we have available we try to put it out. And you can also look at our dashboard, the substance use overdose profile dashboard on the Health Unit website for additional data related to all substances, if that's of interest to the team. I just wanted to speak to the data, what we present and what we have access to.
Thank you. Get Councillor Ashmore, then Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks very much for the presentation to Ms. Hall and Ms. Elliott and Dr. Sunil. We all know the effects, and these are devastating effects, and it's really hard to see, especially young people, the physical consequences of these drugs and the deaths and the injuries and the emotional and the financial stress that they put on themselves and their families. One of the things that I've been reading about is, which is unfortunately having gained prevalence, is drug precursors. So in other words, we used to have the importation or of heroin, cocaine, and amphetamines coming into this country has slightly dropped according to the statistics. However, these precursors, these chemicals that these chemists can obtain over the border are making these drugs now, and it's really difficult. I just was reading here today, and this is from CBC and from National News here, that precursors are the primary threat coming into Canada for things that contribute to the deaths of Canadians, is Dan Anson. Dan Anson's the Director General of the Canada Border Service Agency's Intelligence Investigations Directorate. By detecting precursors at the border can be difficult, especially if they're unregulated. It's challenging to find those because you need a level of front-end detection technology capable of identifying what the chemicals are. So right now we can't even detect these that are coming in. We're doing all this great work, and you're doing an awesome job. It's just incredible what you do. But we're fighting I don't want to say a losing battle, but it's just a constant battle trying to stop this flow of drugs coming into the country. And once they're in here, there's always a constant manufacturing of these drugs somewhere in this country, and it's just it's to stop them. I don't know, but I mean, they're being manufactured and they're being sold, and I don't know what else we could do. We're doing our best. I'm sure the police are doing their best to try and stop this, and your organizations. But what are your thoughts on these drug precursors? These are supposedly the number one threat right now coming into Canada and causing these issues, and not just coming in, but they're manufactured here.
Yes, and all of the precursor chemicals exactly are the issue now because we're manufacturing fentanyl here, and a number of fentanyl analogs and such. Some of those chemicals, I understand, are used for other things, other purposes, and so it's tricky to determine their destination. And some, as you said, are not scheduled necessarily by other countries, and so whereas we have a Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, and we have a number of controlled substances in Schedule 1 and Schedule 2, and some other countries' schedules are different than ours, and so so certain substances may flow more easily than others. It really is up to the federal government and border security and border control and policing on that level to really stop things at that point source. As you say, once they're at the lab and they're being made into substances, it's really then local policing that have to deal with some of those issues. And so there's that advocacy, I think, piece too that needs to happen at the federal level for those that policing to tighten up.
Thank you. Councillor Warren.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. Very interesting, and it's a multi-dimensional issue, from poverty, lack of housing, many different reasons why people choose to go that route, and it's a worldwide problem also. But you had 10 initiatives there, and I'm wondering if, number one, have you started any of those initiatives to lower the harm, while reducing the harm? And also, there were some interesting initiatives. I just wondered how that would be funded.
As far as some of the upstream prevention and early intervention programs, I did mention Healthy Babies, Healthy Children, and some of those home visiting programs that are happening. And so also the Icelandic model for youth, as well as one of the ones that we are exploring. Peterborough Public Health did receive some funding to do some pilot work on that we are now benefiting from as well in our health unit. And so some of those things are definitely in motion and in action. Stigma pieces, we can all do that if we choose to as an organization to look at that. Expanding harm reduction services and provision, we have, as Julie mentioned, started the drug test strip pilot, and also wound care supplies. Those are more recent programs in the last couple of years because of risk factors and because we were hearing from the community there was a need. We know that drugs like veterinary tranquilizers like xylazine, for example, wreak havoc with wounds and cause incredibly painful wounds that can become infected very easily. And so that was a need, and so we responded there. Expanding mobile outreach through CMHA. There was, again, the road ahead. We're hoping that expands out in our communities, because we know in our rural communities where it's sparsely populated, we need to go where people are, as opposed to expecting people, particularly who may be living on a low income, that may not have transportation, to come in and get what they need. And so it's really establishing those direct pathways to care. That's something we need to work on, I think, all of us. Looking at what does it look like if police come into contact with someone and they need a next place to go. Where might they take them? What is that pathway? We know harm reduction is a first one. It's immediate. We need to reduce the risk of death and injury. And so harm reduction supplies are key. And then what? Right? Then where can people go? And I think it's coming around those tables and really mapping out what those pathways look like. If this, then this. If that, then that. And we know how we can support people in their journey. And we know that journey takes time, and we know that it's not linear. To recovery. And so we have to appreciate that as well, that we might see some similar faces around. But again, that just shows the tenacity and the resilience of that person if they keep coming back, And so that's, there's work being done, I think, in all, but really it's coming to the table and finding those pathways where we can work together and collaborate, because it's not, no one solution, right? No one pillar is gonna do it themselves.
Thank you.
Can I also point out that, sorry, I just want to point out too that also I do work for another organization, EFRI in Peterborough, and we are now for that stigma, we are going into Fleming College and working with police foundations, mental health and addictions, social service workers, and paramedics, students. Because they've integrated that in with their in with their programming for the students. So it's getting them where they start, right? So that's exciting.
Thank you. Is there anyone from staff who had any questions or wanted to say anything? Well, you're good? Sarah, you're good? Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming, and thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it very much, and Happy New Year to everybody at the health unit. We have a motion on the floor, so all in favor? And that's passed. Let's take till 5 after as a break. Okay? Everybody sounds so excited about it. Get back at it. I need one more counselor. Oh, no, I'm good. Okay. We're down to consent matters. Item 7, that all of the proposed recommendations shown in section 7.1 of the agenda be approved by the Committee of the Whole in the order that they appear on the agenda, sequentially numbered and forwarded to council for consideration at the next regular council meeting, save and accept items 7.1.2 and 7.1.6. Could I have a mover and seconder? Deputy Mayor McDonald, Councillor Yeo. All in favor? And that's passed.
I can't get on.
Item 7.1.2, Councillor Warren, you asked for an extraction on that.
I did. My camera is not working because it says the host has disabled it. So
Okay, well,
just
I don't think we
Okay.
disabled you, but
okay. It said that's what it's.
there you are. I saw you for a minute. Second. Can you hear us? Okay, go ahead.
You're on mute.
Oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, you can't see me. Anyway, I extracted this because it's quite a big piece of land. Although it's not right on the water, it has an incredible view of the water. And it's, as I said, it's quite a big piece of land. And I did reach out to our solicitor, Robin Carlson, and maybe she could shed some extra information into this.
Ms. Carlson?
If she's online, I'm not sure.
I am. Thank you very much for the question. I understand that the question around whether or not the property was independently developable can be answered in the affirmative. So there appears to be sufficient lot area on this property. There exists an easement on this property in favor of the owner at 100 Front Street. However, there is a 12-month notice period which allows the city to terminate the easement on 12 months notice. So that could be removed. The easement itself is for an existing garage, driveway, and fence. So those would need to be moved back onto the property of 100 Front Street if the easement was terminated.
So, yeah, that's fine. I'm not able to look into that right now, but we'll be able to do that before council meeting. So, and I have had some complaints. It was put out. I ended up on Facebook and all over the place about this. And I think there was an idea also that it was going to be abutting a possible retirement facility. So there are lots of different parts to this. So going forward. So if it's just a receive, then I will deal with it at council.
Well, it's more than a receive. If you want me to read it, I can. That the subject property being a portion of the road allowance adjacent to 100 and 114 Front Street East and 27 Ann Street and legally described as Prince Street on Plan 70 between Main Street and Front Street, Kawartha Lakes, being part of PIN 63130-0284 LT, be declared surplus to municipal needs, that the sale of the portion of the road allowance to the adjoining landowner be supported in principle in accordance with the provisions of bylaw 2018-020 as amended and the Municipal Act 2001, and subject to the parties entering into conditional agreement of purchase and sale including a condition that the subject portion of the road allowance merge with the purchaser's adjacent properties on closing. That if one of the adjacent property owners decides they do not wish to proceed with the purchasing their respective portion of the road allowance, that portion of the road allowance be sold to the remaining purchasers. That if necessary to clear title, 100 Front Street East be required to consent to the dismissal of the existing encroachment agreement registered on title. That council set the value of the land at the set price of $2.50 per square foot of interior road allowance unless the purchaser wishes to pay for an appraisal, in which case council set the value of the land at the lower of the set price of $2.50 per square foot of interior road allowance or the appraised value. That staff be directed to commence the process to stop up and close the said portion of the road allowance. That a bylaw with any amendments deemed necessary to close the road and authorize its disposition shall be passed if appropriate. That a deeming bylaw be passed contemporaneously with the disposition bylaw if required. That the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all documents to facilitate the road closing and conveyance of the lands, and that these recommendations be brought forward to council for consideration at the next regular council meeting. Do you want to move that?
So, no. So it's very convoluted and I will not support that. There are more facets to this. If anything, it's worth quite a bit of money. So I would just I can't make a motion, but I would just receive it at this point.
What? If you move it to go... Receive it and forward it to the next regular council meeting, and then you can speak to it there.
Yeah, I guess that, well, that's, it really is, it basically what we're doing is just receiving that at this point. And then, I will be, extracting it at council.
So the motion would be to receive and forward to the next council meeting. Are you good with that?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
is
At
there a
this point,
seconder? Councillor Perry? Do you want to speak any more to it, or you speak to it at council?
Oh, I'll speak to it at council for sure.
Okay. All in favor? And that's passed.
Okay, yeah.
Our next item is item 716, Councillor Ashmore. You said you had a question on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a question, and I want to thank Director Barry for getting back to me. But my questions were, if this strategy is going to involve at least 4 planning staff when we're already at a premium for staff time for applications and whatnot, will this, I just wanted assurances that this new project would not take away from existing applications that we already have. That's my first question.
Director?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the councillor. Thank you, Councillor Ashmore. We appreciate the question and having an eye on our precarious staffing complement. The environment portfolio is fully within the policy side of our operations. So in the planning division, we have a policy side and a development side, and the dedicated staff in the policy shop would be focused on this work and aren't involved in the development application review, which has its own staff complement. So we do have staff that are dedicated to work on the climate change strategy and other sort of longer term policy initiatives you'll be familiar with, the official plan and its forthcoming review, growth management strategy work, studies on agricultural and natural heritage systems processes. So again, there is a complement of staff that would be looking after this that would not impact the development review of applications.
Okay, thanks. And the final question was, we're obviously applying for this grant. And I brought up in my questions to you there, the idea of green, what they call green bonds. The City of Ottawa has green bonds, but they have that's their way of doing these so-called projects, these projects that they have, site-specific projects, like I'll say transit as an example, that you can apply for green bonds, which are less interest rate than the bonds that we obtain, but we don't have a credit rating, so we don't have a low interest rate. We don't have the ability to get that low interest rate, although we're looking into it, I'm told. That's where we need our credit rating, but anyways, that's another thing on its own. So are we looking into other ways of getting funds other than implementing this strategy? Like, are we looking into things like green bonds and for financing these projects, environmental projects, please?
I'm not sure it's Director Barry. We may be better served by Director Bokaboom responding if she can.
That's fine.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Councillor, we have an outstanding report on the credit rating that we owe council. We only had the one meeting in December, so that is coming back to you in Q1 of this year. I have to admit, you have brought the word green bonds to me as some new information, so we will research that and include it in our credit rating report if we have it in due time, but we will investigate.
Thank you.
Councillor Yeo.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, just because it's extracted, and I don't have an issue with the climate change strategy. Basically, $150,000 are going to get a strategy that I would hope tells us to keep up what we're doing, go with the status quo, follow any senior government leads, and do what we can to help. It's certainly not anything that I think we should be reinventing the wheel on, given it's not the municipality's responsibility. It's every human being's responsibility, but it's not ours. It's not in our bailiwick, as some other councillors would say. Now, and I read this, and I was fine with everything, but now it seems that we're going to apply for this $105,000 grant, which it isn't a lot of money, but it's also not a little bit of money. But they want us to rename our project to the comprehensive climate change strategy. So when I see the word comprehensive, it actually scares me a little bit. So I want to know what's changing on this project that I supported. Give us a feel-good consultation and tell us we're doing good, and keep up the good work to what does comprehensive mean? Anybody?
Do I have any volunteers for comprehensive? Director Barry?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the councillor, and thank you for your support of the work that we have forthcoming. We're quite excited about it, and for the purposes of just completing the application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for this particular topic, we were sort of working within the parameters of the application form, and there was a little bit of discussion back and forth between our staff and the application intake team over at FCM. So without a complete definition that I can't offer you today, because that isn't something that we take out of the application material, in our minds and how we're applying it, and what our continued intent is here is to just be broad with our approach for the climate change strategy, and to be thorough. And those are my comments.
No, and that's good. And I part of me was thinking, no, it sounds better. It sounds more inclusive and all that stuff. But there's another side of me, the hateful side, I guess you want to call it, or the side that looks down on this kind of thing, and just saying that could be a trick word. What are we digging ourselves into? But I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just a comment that it's the last sentence that grabbed me, and I'll be looking, we will all be looking at this carefully, that recommendations will be cost-effective, pragmatic, and achievable. Those are 3 or 4 keywords there.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, did you want to move this?
Yeah, I'll move it to receive it, to go to the next meeting, council meeting.
So you're not supporting it?
Well, I think I think it'll be discussed next council meeting, so.
So you want to receive it, and so you understand that we risk not getting a grant if it doesn't go forward?
I know we're risking not getting a grant, but I'm worried about the future where we might be mired down and, you know, we go to meetings and we hear what people say about, I know staff are doing the best they can in planning and applications, but, you know, if we take something on right now, I'm just worried that, I just want assurances that we're not going to, you know, throw more paperwork at people and more regulations and more time. That's just, how do we assure that 100%? That's just my concern.
Well, I think the director just told you that they have staff, and I think we approved this in the budget in November going forward, and it's part of our strategy going forward that we plan on getting this grant in order to achieve the things that are in there. So, if you're intent on just receiving and forwarding it to council, is there a seconder for that?
Doug, it's Pat. I can't see anything. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I would just move the recommendation. I've worked on this. We have somebody.
We can't right now because we have a motion on the floor to receive and forward to the next council meeting. And I'm looking for a seconder for that. And there is no seconder for that. Who
Okay.
did you?
I'll move. Well, if you don't get a seconder, I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Who seconded the recommendation? Deputy Mayor? Okay, all in favor? That's defeated.
Oh,
Go ahead, Councillor Ward.
it's Pat. I can't see you, sorry. I will move the recommendation.
Okay, is there a seconder? Councillor Joyce? All in favor?
Oh, I'm
And
voting in
that
favor.
passes. Thank you. There's no new or other business. I have a motion to adjourn. Councillor Perry, Councillor Yeo. All in favor? And that's passed.